Good morning. I hope you're having a great 4th of July weekend. We're not going to be having life group this weekend because of the holiday. So I wanted to give you guys a class this morning that you could do at home with your parents, with your family, with your friends, whoever it may be. And our series that we're going over right now is called Love Hate. And I'm not going to lie, this kind of feels normal right now, standing here looking at the classroom. I mean, you're not here, but you're there. So we'll go with this morning. It feels like old times. So hopefully we're back to doing this very soon, where we can all be together in one class. Our bottom line for this morning is let love be your filter. And we're going to look at that. We're going to look at Galatians. We're going to be in chapter 6 this morning, looking at what Paul wrote to the church in Galatia. So let's jump right in. Have you ever felt thankful that you had a friend who cared enough to tell you something awkward about yourself that helped you out? Like, think about it. Maybe it was, hey, you have spinach in your teeth and it's been there for 3 hours and no one else told you, but I just did. Or maybe it's, maybe you shouldn't really be wearing that, or you shouldn't really do that, or you shouldn't really be associating with those kind of people, or even other things. I'm sure you guys can come up with lots of good things that you're glad that you had a friend who was willing to tell you something that might be a little bit awkward for them, but helped you out in the long run. We've all had those moments. I've had those moments where maybe I didn't realize that I left my gas cap off and it was like hanging out with the lid was shut, and you're the person driving down the road and it's really awkward, and people are like, why is that guy's gas cap open? And so people are honking at you and you're just waving back, and then finally you get somewhere and your friend's like, dude, your gas cap's been off, I guess, for a while now. When was the last time you had gas? Like 2 days ago? Like, oh, I just thought everybody was really friendly. So we all have those moments. You guys probably have a lot of those examples. So take a moment right now and share one of those examples with your parents, with your friends, whatever it is. A moment where a friend looked out for you in a moment that might have been awkward for them. Now, the other side of that, have you ever felt like you should have really said something to someone else, but you weren't sure how to go about saying it to them? You just didn't know exactly the right thing to say. Maybe you're afraid, if I tell them this, it's going to ruin a friendship. Maybe you yourself have been down that road and you didn't want to look like a hypocrite. You didn't want to tell someone to quit doing something because you yourself have done that exact same thing. Or maybe we don't think the person will listen. We just don't think that our voice matters to that person. And we even have friends sometimes that we don't think our voice will matter to them because we're afraid they just don't want to hear what we have to say. Or, like I started out, maybe we just don't know what to say. We see something, we see a friend who needs to hear something from us, something that will benefit their life, something that will help them, but we don't know what to say to help that. I'm sure you've all been in that situation. I'm sitting here thinking of times that I've been in that situation with friends where I knew I needed to say something, but I couldn't have told you what in the world it was I had to say. So hopefully as we go through this class this morning, you will find some different ways that you can communicate to those people, and you can show those people that you love them, you care for them, and you're here for them, maybe without even having to say something at all. And then, for some of us, the situation is the exact opposite. We have no issues saying what we think people need to hear, whether they really need to or not. We're just going to let them know anyways. So you may find yourself in that boat. The first half you may be like, no, man, James, I'm great. I can tell people whatever they need to know, and I always have the words to say it. But there's also some stuff for you in this class too. So if that is you, keep following along with us. What if we could learn to approach those situations, those difficult situations, with a different approach rather than just words? So when it comes to being a friend who looks out for others, how do we make sure that we handle it in a way that's loving, a way that's caring, a way that shows that we are their friend, that we are here for them, but at the same time, we need to be able to tell them those awkward things. And we talked a little bit about this last Wednesday, I know in our guys class, I'm sure you girls hit it as well, how love doesn't mean that everything is always kittens and unicorns and fluffy cotton candy and everything's perfect. Love is hard sometimes. And if you truly love someone, there has to be those hard times where you care about them enough to tell them and to help correct them and to help them better their lives, to get on that path that God wants us all to live on. So let's look. Last time we met, we talked about Paul, right? We talked about Paul, and he wrote a letter to Ephesus, right? Ephesians. And we talked about how that culture was, and that city was so diverse, and there was so much room for gossip, and it was easy to hate, and it was easy to find division, and how we tie that into our own lives today, even how when all this diversity, all these different things going on, it's easy for us to find ways to hate. And our culture loves to hate. It's like I said in the guys' class, it's almost a sport. Like, we turn on TV, reality TV is all about other people's drama. And we love to watch it because we can't stand that person and we can't stand how they're acting, but we still go back to it because that's what our culture has told us is the common thing to do. That is the correct way to look at stuff. But like we said last week, God has called us to live a different world, to not live in a world full of hate. He's called us to be love in a world that is filled with hate and to go against our culture and what it looks like. So let's look and see what Paul has to say today as we look at his letter he wrote to the church in Galatia. And so we're going to be in Galatians. I said chapter 6. We're going to start off in verse 1. And that says, "Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back into the right path. And be careful not to fall into the same temptation yourself." In other words, what Paul is saying, hey, if you have a friend, if you have a brother or sister who has fallen into temptation, who has fallen into a life of sin, you, with gentleness and humbleness, should talk to that person and to help them bring them back, right? He's saying have those awkward conversations with your friends. Have those times, and maybe it's not even friends. I'll be honest, there's family members that maybe you need to have these conversations with. There's aunts, there's uncles, there's cousins, there could be parents that you have to have these conversations with, and that is difficult. That is hard. But I feel like if we come from a place of love and we present this the way that Paul is telling us to present it here in Galatians, we're going to be able to have those conversations regardless of the relationship we have with that person. In other words, he's saying, you and I should actually go further than just saying something in a conversation. We should help someone get back to the best place they can be, back on track with God. So it's more than just saying something. And I think we have to think about that because we're so quick. Like I said, some of us have no issue saying anything to anybody. And others of us, even when we don't think we know the words to say, we still find words to say. And we leave it at that. We're so guilty of telling people what they're doing wrong and telling people how they're living wrong and telling people where they need to fix themselves and then walking away from them. And Paul is saying there's more to it than just having that conversation. Really, there's a challenge to walk alongside that person, to help that person. And if we look a little bit further here in the next verse, just right there, it says, share each other's burdens, and in this way obey the law of Christ, right? So don't just have the conversation. Don't just tell somebody they're wrong. And think about how you feel. Like when someone comes up to you and says, James, you're doing this wrong, and they don't give you any constructive criticism, they don't tell you how to help it, they walk away from you and all you have memory of that person is, they told me I was wrong, they told me I did this wrong. That's not going to change me. That's not going to make me want to do better because someone had an opinion and that they felt like they needed to tell me, but they didn't give me any tools to work with. They didn't give me any accountability. They didn't give me a hand to help me along my way. Because the people that we're going to be having conversations with, we should have a relationship with. Like I said, your friends, your family, people that you work with every day. And to just say they're doing something wrong and just point out their flaws and their shortcomings that I guarantee you they already know about. They know their shortcomings. I'm sure they struggle with them every day more than we even know. And if all we say is, you're wrong, you do this, and we walk away, we've done them an injustice. But rather, like it says in verse 2, we carry each other's burdens. We help out. We offer a helping hand. We go, we have that conversation, And instead of saying, hey, James, your gas cap's open, it's been open for 2 days because you haven't got gas in 2 days, go and shut the gas cap. Help them out. And I know that's a silly, small, insignificant, awkward conversation to have, which isn't really even awkward. You should know how to shut your gas cap. But the point is, don't just give correction, but give them tools. Help them out. Help them be accountable. Help them as they walk through this journey. And that is going to go much further with not only your relationship with them, but also their relationship with God. Think about it this way. Those of you that are in strength programs, maybe you're taking a strength class at school, maybe something along those lines, what's the one rule that the coach always tells you to have? When you're lifting weights, what's the one thing? That's right. Have a spotter. You always should have a spotter. Why do we have a spotter? Because sometimes muscles get fatigued. Sometimes we get tired. Sometimes we think we're stronger than we really are, and we put more on the bar than we can handle. And we go to lift that, and if we don't have a spotter, we're stuck. We get seriously injured. Even death could occur depending on how much weight you have on and if there's no one around. But the point of a spotter is not to do all the lifting. The point of a spotter is not to be there to make sure that you look good and that you look like you can do all this weight. The point of a spotter is to help carry the burden. And that's what a good spotter does. They're there for you. They're there to encourage you. They're there to give you words of encouragement. But then they're also there for that time when life's just too much, when that bar just weighs too much. And all you need is just a little hand underneath to help lift them up. And so think about carrying each other's burdens in that same way as being a spotter. And that's what we should be as Christians to the people that we have relationships with. And the way that we can do that is through love. And I think it's important that we start thinking about love and we start thinking about how we are loving everyone around us, right? And I know that it can get confusing and it can get difficult to weigh out, how do I love this person but don't love what they're doing? How do I make sure I'm encouraging them but not endorsing what they're doing? And you know what? A lot of that is for God to sort out and for God to figure out. And what we need to do is we need to be there to love. Love looks supportive. Love looks like a great friend. But love also is someone who's there for the hard times and who is there through the tough times. And that can tell you when you're doing wrong. And because that relationship you have, because the other side of that love, you know that it's coming from a good place. It's coming from a place that they're absolutely concerned about you and concerned about where you're going. So being kind, helpful, and encouraging shows people that we want to help them out of love. Hard conversations aren't easy, but avoiding hard conversations isn't loving either, just like I just said. If we can't have hard conversations, are we truly loving people? Am I showing love in how I'm treating this person? Ask yourself that. Last week, we said, as we think about gossip, when we think about the words we say, we said, ask yourself before anything you say, is this helpful? And I hope you've been doing that this last week, and I hope you've seen a huge difference in the way that you talk about other people, the way that you talk with other people, and the advice you give. And so as you're thinking about that, is this helpful? Add this to your repertoire. Am I showing love in how I'm treating this person? Last thing, let's be people who let love be our filter so that we can help those we love stay headed in the best direction for their lives, which is a direction closer to God. I love you guys. I mean it. I hope that this has been a helpful class this morning. I hope that you're with your parents, or you're with your friends, and you're discussing these things, and you're going over this, and you're looking at your own life and saying, what do I need to hear from friends? Are there some things that I need, that friends have been trying to tell me about the way that I'm living my life, that I need to see their love that they're showing me? Or are there some friends or people in your life that you need to really, truly love and be there in the good times, but also be there in the hard times and be there in the times of correction? Like I said, I love you. I mean, I can't wait till we're all back together again. We will see you guys Wednesday, and that's all I got. Love you, mean it. Bye.